Hello everyone, and let's talk about balance. It's time to talk about balance because 3.1.2 should we say, not 3.2, 3.1.2 launched today, and of course it brings with it the changes to the telekinetic sage in particular, or the lightning sorcerer as well, which is causing a lot of QQ on the forums, a lot of people threatening to leave because of the changes to the telekinetic sage. Now, some of the changes were a bit extreme, you have to say, but some of the changes definitely were justified. Now, we'll talk about the problem with the sage, the TK sage, at length now. We're going to talk about that just now, and what we're going to say is, it's your own fault, really, that it got nerfed, okay? It was your own fault. I have to say, people who were cheesing damage numbers, abusing Force Quake, quite frankly, people while leveling, it was the only ability they used. In 3.0, sages are the new marauders, essentially, because leveling, you got Force Quake fairly early on. I can't remember what level it was now, but it is fairly early on in leveling, and it is your most powerful ability while leveling. So what was happening was, it became a one-button rotation, because don't forget, one of your first utility points is going to go into Tectonic Mastery, of course, which makes your Force Quake 25% better. Your best ability is going to get 25% better, and considering most of the game revolves around trash mobs, there's a lot of trash in this game, a lot of weak mobs, and basically people were just spamming that and thinking, yeah, that's the only button I'm going to press because that kills the enemies faster. It was kind of unbalanced. That makes the game unbalanced for new players, because if you're just spending one ability, you're not learning your class. You're not learning how to play your class, you're not learning the ins and outs, but you're not learning things like, Mind Crush and makes Turbulence and Auto Crit. Why would you? Just press Force Quake and you can win. It was a win button, essentially. It was a 2-button rotation if you're telekinetic. It ended up being a 2-button because you had, what was it, Force Wave, Chain Lightning I'm thinking of as well, as a sorcerer. So it became a 2-button rotation. It was basically the charge and smash of 3.0. That's what it was. And the other reason that we saw was people using Force Quake to cheese damage meters when they had their parsec or star parse, whatever the hell they use, using that to cheese numbers. And on certain fights like Bulow, I saw a lot of sages Force Quaking the drunken pirates just to get higher damage numbers, just inflating their own damage numbers. I saw some ridiculous numbers, people producing like 6-7k DPS, which is way out of whack just by spamming Force Quake on those drunken pirates. Now in that fight, you do not attack the drunken pirates, you wait to get them killed by either the barrel or they get killed by the mass barrage. So you don't really want to be hitting them, so people were ignoring tactics just to cheese damage meters, and that's your own fault. If you were doing that, it's your own fault, really, that you got nerfed. Of course, BioWare are going to take notice of that. If they see one class that's miles ahead of other classes in damage on a certain fight, they're going to do something about it, aren't they? They're going to do something about that. I mean, it makes sense, essentially, that the Sage did get nerfed. We knew the nerf was coming, because Force Quake was insanely overpowered. Now, a few other things got nerfed. Basically, the Fort Lightning and Fort Darkness, or what is it, Telekinetic Momentum and Mental Momentum, that's it. Basically, it was your chance for your abilities to basically multi-strike. Let's call it multi-strike. So it had the chance for your abilities, which is a second attack. They have been nerfed by 5%. They are down from, they were 30% chance to trigger a second ability. Second telekinetic attack was telekinetic momentum. It's down to 25%. And it is going to deal 25% of the original damage to the target. So if one did 1,000 damage, the second one would do 250 damage. So it'd be 25% basically. They have nerfed this. They've nerfed the proc chance. It has been nerfed by 5%. Is it going to make a huge difference? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to make a massive difference. It is only 5%. I mean, it's not as if it's like 20% or something like that that's going to be noticeable. It is going to be noticeable on some level, though. It is going to be, it's going to put your numbers down a little bit over the course of a fight, because of course it's going to proc less, but it is only 5%, so it's not going to be huge. It's not going to make a massive difference. We never really relied on those things. They were kind of just like bonus damage. We never relied on them. We had a 1 in 3 chance. Now we've got a 1 in 4 chance for it to proc now. So does it make a difference? It is a nerf. I mean, it is a direct nerf, but again, the telekinetic Sage was just insane with both burst and sustainability, so something maybe had to be done with that. The other change is that Telekinetic Gust got its damage increased, but it also got its cooldown increased from 15 seconds up from 12. Telekinetic Burst had its damage reduced, which is your basic filler, and its force cost has been raised from 33. It's gone up from 30 to 33. That's gonna make a difference, isn't it? 33 extra force. Force is never an issue in telekinetics anyway, but again, it is a nerf actually. Well, you could argue, is it or isn't it? You'd have to see the numbers to see whether it is, whether it'll balance out with Telekinetic Gust, who knows. But obviously BioWare have the numbers there, so they, I guess, are nerfing it. Now, a lot of people saying this is a PvP decision. I would suggest it's a PvE decision, certainly the Force Quake one. Force Quake has been, it's had its force cost reduced. Force cost is cut in half, and it's had its channel reduced from cut in half from down from 6 seconds to 3 seconds. Also, there's no snare effect anymore. That may be a PvP change to Force Quake, but again, most of this is not really affecting PvP, because we saw it in PvE. It was unbalancing PvE a hell of a lot. Those Sages were causing trouble. It was like, you know, I don't want to heal this Sage because, yeah, he's pulled aggro on all the pirates just because they've done something stupid like throw out their Force Quake just to have some extra damage numbers. Is it really worth it? Bear in mind that how much DPS do you produce when you're dead? So if you pull aggro on those pirates and, you know, they kill you, or they don't kill you but you've made yourself a burden to the healer, it is a pain. It was a pain in the arse. Sages were a big pain in the arse. They were a pain in the arse for tanks as well. That Force Quake was such a pain in the arse. As a tank, you'd pull, you'd try to get your AoE threat, you'd always have to AoE taunt to keep threat away from the Sage. It was annoying. It was really annoying in PvE. It was annoying as a healer, because you just pull multiple mobs and then you would see them make a beeline for the Sage. And it's like, oh, great. Should I heal this Sage, or should the Sage watch their threat? That was the big thing. So I think it's very much a PvE based nerf. I mean, people are complaining, saying they should balance the game, shouldn't balance the game around PvP, you should balance it around PvE because that's where the majority of the players are. I'm the opinion, yeah, the game should be balanced around both, really. The biggest thing that's pissed me off is the Shadows range nerf. Basically because every single fight in the game favors range DPS, and they've took away a lot of the melee classes' ranged abilities. So what you're saying, essentially, is you want us to fucking die in the fire. That's what you want us to die. Because I have never done a Torque fight in 16-man where the melee DPS have survived. Never. I did a live stream earlier tonight, and all the melee DPS died. Every single time. Doesn't matter. They always die in the fire. And you've took away range from them. So you're just it is a nerf to survivability, essentially. Because if we had to be at range, then we could do some damage. And I don't think there's anything hugely wrong with that. With the Serenity Shadow, what they did was they took away the range of our Vanquish and Mind Crush, and of course our what's it called again? Force and Balance. That's the one. Force and Balance. They took away that. It gave us something to use as we were going into the fight. Nowadays we're just going to stand closer to the boss, you know, in stealth obviously. And the risk of us pulling, or risk of us aggroing the boss, is just going to increase. So it's going to again make irritation. I don't think that's a very good change. Was it really that huge in PvP that it wasn't a huge issue? Was it really that huge that a melee class had an advantage for once? You know, they hate melee classes. It's clear by the design that they do not give a shit about melee classes, which is fine. But you're making a fucking Star Wars game, okay? It's a Star Wars game, and you hate melee classes. That is hugely wrong on a design level. That's a hugely wrong philosophy to have, I think. If you're making a Star Wars game, you know, look at the Star Wars movies. Who are the sort of, you know, the big kind of stars? Where's the best kind of battles? It's the Jedi, you know, it's the Jedi fights. The space battles are interesting as well, but it's the lightsaber duels. That's certainly the one thing I like about Star Wars is the lightsaber duels. You know, two melee classes going at it. Can you imagine if BioWare directed Star Wars? It would be like, fuck that. The Sage would fucking win by just standing back and spamming at them, or a gunslinger, or you know, a scoundrel would sneak up and just, you know, stab Obi-Wan in the back. That's how Obi-Wan would have met his end, rather than in a lightsaber fight. Because why would you be a melee class in Star Wars? I mean, that's the whole point of it, is that the melee classes have the advantage because they can use the Force and etc. in a Star Wars game. I think they've missed that, really, that the melee classes had the advantage, especially as a Jedi, because you can kind of deflect things and all of that stuff. We're getting off track here. We're getting back to balance. So the game is still not balanced, I have to say. Has it balanced the game? No. Melee classes are still dog shit in terms of their DPS. They are viable, but they require a higher skill level to play, and they also suffer, particularly in progression. We tend to not be taking melee anymore to progression, and that is bad. That is really, really bad for the game. Bear in mind the data that they released just before 3.0, which pointed to the majority of people playing Jedi Knight and Sith Warrior, and they're melee classes. And bear in mind the shortage of tanks in the game. I would say the majority of them are DPS, whether they're Marauder or Juggernaut or Guardian Sentinel, it doesn't matter. I'd say the majority of them are playing DPS. So you think, design the game towards what the majority of the players are playing. You know, that would make sense. Because we know that. We know the majority play Jedi Knight, and Sith Warrior is second. The Consular is quite well represented as well. But again, that's what the majority of people want to play. So design the fights to be better suited to those players. You know, get more of those players in the game. Because if they just decide, oh, I can't do progression because I'm a melee class, I'm either have to re-roll a range class or quit the game. That's basically the choice. And it's kind of sad that we have to make that choice for progression. Because fights like Torque, HM... oh, they're just so annoying. There's so much damage. If you have melee classes, it's like having an extra tank to heal. It's like if you have one melee class, it's 3 tanks you've got to heal. It's 3 people you got to be healing. You got to keep your, as a scoundrel, I got to keep my stacks up, slow release med pack on 3 people. It is so annoying. I have to AoE heal the 3 of them. I have to, you know, be spreading my rotation out among 3 people, and it's not that hard amongst 2. Pretty easy to keep track of everything amongst 2. Amongst 3, it's a handful. It is a horrible juggling act to get right, and mistakes get punished if you're a melee class, which is fine. If you want melee to play at a higher skill level, then fair enough. But don't make it unfair. I think we are just so unbalanced in PvE at the moment. PvP, I don't really comment on PvP because I don't really do PvP, to be honest with you. PvP, you've always got the advantage. Melee classes have the advantage of stealth, obviously. You've got some classes that can stealth. Your assassin and your scoundrel have the advantage of stealth, obviously, to get in close. But again, some classes kind of struggle. The Marauder apparently is really struggling right now. Struggling in PvE as well at the moment, the Marauder. The Guardian as well. Struggling a little bit in PvE just to match up with the other melee classes. Probably the Shadow and the Power Tech are probably the best 2 at the moment. The Marauder maybe about... Marauder's there or thereabouts. Depends on the spec for the Marauder. Combat is dog shit. Combat is absolute dog shit. We're just too tied to precision, and the amount of things that go wrong, you have to play combat to perfection, almost perfection, to get the most out of it. Combat is terrible. The Dot 1 Watchman is a little bit better. It's a little bit better because at least if you're away from the boss, you can have your dots up and you'll still be doing damage. Whereas combat, if you time it wrong and you pop your precision when Mass Barrage, for example, occurs, then you're screwed. Or you pop it on Sword Squadron and the first one, was it the first one? I can't remember. The one that goes immune. The Republic one, I would refer, Republic and Empire one, I don't refer to it as Unit 1, Unit 2, I just say Republic, Empire. That one goes immune, you've just wasted a lot of your potential damage anyway when it goes immune, when it gets the shield on it. But yeah, you're just wasting a lot of damage. It's so tied to that little window of damage that it sucks. And the Guardian again is very tied to Master Strike as well. The advantage the Guardian has is you can reset the cooldown fairly quickly on Master Strike with your overhead slash and your, what is it, plasma brand can reset the cooldown with them. At least on that, the Guardian has that. But again, the Master Strike, you're standing still for 3 seconds, and standing still in 3.0 is not really viable. You see with the mercenaries and the sages who rarely have to stand still, they're kind of the best DPS for certain fights because they can just move around and keep DPSing. Movement's not an issue to them because of utility points. So anyway, the game I don't think is very well balanced right now. That's my problem with the game right now. So anyway, that is going to be all for this video. It'd be nice to see them redesign the fights to be more melee friendly. Would be nice to see certain fights at least get rid of fucking Torque. Really, that is a horrible fight. And of course they nerfed the melee classes had one advantage in that, and they nerfed it with Saber Reflect. That was just a kick in the nuts for melee. Another one, really. So anyway, that is all for this video. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.